electronic beats.
And good morning. Welcome to Avnewscast.com on News Talk 1380.
Hey, we've got kind of a hot button topic show today.
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
Definitely high profile.
Time to go root through the medicine cabinet and get the Ativan.
Well, you know, the neat thing about having the number one news talk radio program in the Antelope Valley is you get to hit really interesting topics.
That's for
All right?
sure. Yep.
A couple of months ago, we had Michelle on the show, okay, which turned out to be one of our most popular shows that we've ever done.
Absolutely.
Because people really engaged, okay, which was great. And we've got Michelle back live in studio today.
The only problem we had with that show and the only complaint was that since we had a call-in, the interview was on a call-in, that nobody else was able to get in and voice their opinions. So now we have her in the studio today, and
Give out that
people can
number.
be heard.
Which is great. Now, on top of that, though, okay, which really has not ever been done in the Antelope Valley. You know, we've been talking about registered sex offenders and the fact that that they're wearing GPS systems, okay, that have to be monitored.
Right.
And what we thought we would do, and I've got to give credit to Jeff on this one, is actually bring in to the studio live on air, okay, somebody that was convicted of a sexual offense, that was required to register as a sex offender, that is on a GPS monitoring system on his ankle, and he's in studio with us now, all right, which is Andy, right? Andy?
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
Good morning.
Let's, you know what, right off the bat, okay, this is, and this is really interesting, but Andy, originally, what was it that caused you to what was your original offense?
Well, originally, I was convicted as a juvenile when I was about 13 years old of a crime against another, which I had no involvement at all. And, you know, I was going to court. My mom was there for me, and it was a long process going through court. And I was told by the lawyer, you take this no-low contest, you can go home. So I took it instead of going to trial all the way. And now I'm, you know, the rest of my life I'm going through this for it now.
Okay. So, and the other party, okay, you were 13?
Right.
And the other party was how old?
The other party was 8.
8 years old. So we've got a 13-year-old boy and another 8-year-old, okay? And you didn't really commit the crime?
No, I had no involvement at all.
Okay.
So the DA then just pushed you into taking the plea of no contest, and
Right. It seemed that way. And my mom can tell you more about it.
just to kind of clear the docket, or
Yeah, it seemed like just to get a conviction. I don't know. I mean, I was young. I didn't really know I was going to be going through this later on in my life.
Wow.
You know, if I would have known back then, I would have went all the way to trial.
Amen.
Now,
But the 8-year-old didn't know that it wasn't you that did whatever it was?
Well, I should know it wasn't me because it wasn't me.
No, I'm just asking.
There was a victim, but, you know, I had no involvement at all. You know, I was caught up into the mix. It was I had my best friend, which lived down the street from me, and he had done something to his cousin, and, you know, they wanted him in jail, but they didn't want him to go alone, so I got caught up in the mix, and I believe he even had an uncle that was in law enforcement, you know, so there was just a lot going on that I had no control over, you know.
And a lot of people have to realize that today that 98% of the convictions are on plea bargains. The district attorneys do come at them with a plea agreement, giving them lesser amount of time. And you know, in Andy's situation, and I can attest, you know, I wasn't there, of course, but when you're faced in that situation, the only thing you want to do is go home.
Yeah, you're a scared kid in a
yes, exactly. And when
in
the
a
parent,
world you don't understand, and all you want to do is get out of there. I
Yes.
understand that.
And you know, I've had great lengthy conversations with his mother, and you know, as his mother, she was unable to interject, even though he was 13 years old, with his public defender, and say, "Let's take this to trial," because Andy was of the thought, at least I can go home, not knowing what the future
Yeah,
damage
what
was going to
what
to
comes
be
along with going
with
home.
it. Exactly. And so, you know, if we were to exert our Sixth Amendment right to take it, to have a trial, then I think there would be a greater amount of not guilties out there.
Yeah.
But yes.
Question. Okay, so Andy, on your original crime, when you were convicted, were you convicted of a felony or misdemeanor? As a minor.
I believe it was a felony.
Okay. Were you, at that time as a minor, required to register as a sex offender?
No, I was
No.
placed on probation.
Okay. All right. So you were convicted and you were a minor and you were placed on probation. What happened that caused you to have to register in the database and wear the GPS?
Well, I got in trouble. You know, I joined a gang, and you know, I got into trouble as a kid, and you know, I was violating probation all the time, all the way until I believe I was 16 years old, and I went to the youth authority. And when I got out, I had a hard time just because when I would go to the parole board, this is every other crime that I've been convicted of would just be not even spoken of. It was always this one, you know, that they would come to me and tell me, you know, that I'm in denial, and you know, but all the time I'm standing by what I believe. You know, I didn't do it, so it's just been like that since I was young.
So you kind of ignored it because in your mind you felt, hey, I didn't do it.
Right.
So you guys have given me a bum rap.
Right.
Okay, and I'm labeled as X. But what was it that happened that, because originally you didn't have to wear a GPS or register, right?
No.
So what was it that happened that caused that now, I mean, you're tracked wherever you go? Was it a crime that you committed? Was it a failure to register?
Failure to register, yeah. It's I got about 5 failure to registers for. It's hard because every year around my birthday I'm required to go to the sheriff's station and register for this, and that's a tough time every year for me.
You have to report every year.
Every year I have to do this, and you know, there's times I just didn't do it, you know, and I'll just go off on some little adventure somewhere, you know, just to be alone and away from everything.
I understand you enjoy hiking.
I do enjoy hiking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so from those failure to registers, did that send you back behind bars?
Yeah, I did.
It did.
Sent me to prison.
For how long?
16 months. I did half, 8 months.
Okay, for a failure to register. Not committing another crime, but just failure to register.
For
And when you
failure
got
to
out, you had to register in the database and wear the GPS,
Right.
right?
Correct.
Now, originally, let me ask you a question. If you didn't, isn't there a way to undo that original crime that you were committed for that you didn't do? I mean, isn't there somebody, albeit the victim, you know, some evidence, something that will exonerate you?
Can an attorney speak with the victim and
I mean, that's...
say, really, you're wrecking
I really,
somebody's
really
life?
Hope there
Like
is. I
holding your
mean,
tongue?
because if I was to, you know, take this to a trial nowadays, maybe there'd be change in people's hearts, you know, people that lied about this. You know, I'd like to take care of this and get my life back.
Have you pursued that at all?
No.
No.
No, I haven't.
No, because... Why? Because the system just piles so much on you that it's just too difficult to see your way out?
Right.
You get
right.
beat down after a while.
It's just oppression. I mean, I just want to get away. I mean, you know, it's just raw oppression.
Yeah, but
way I
you
see
can't, because every time you try to just get away, you're going to end up committing, you know, another problem. You don't register, I mean, then it's back, you're back to prison.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Yeah, I know the justice system has some problems. Okay, I get that. When it comes to registered sex offenders in the Antelope Valley, a lot of people say that the Antelope Valley is a dumping ground. A lot of people call it that. As an example, in Little Rock, almost 1 in 40 that reside in Little Rock are registered sex offenders.
That's
right
a
now.
lot.
In Lancaster, it's 1 in, let's say, 450.
However, I do want to say this, Steve, that the individuals that are coming out of prison and returning home, they have to return to their county of commitment. LA County is the largest of all 4 parole regions that has returning offenders. So they have to go back to their county of commitment, number one. Number two, you have to look at these ordinances that the cities have adopted along the way that are preventing them, that have certain restrictions, residency restrictions.
And look at that list of restrictions.
Oh, yes. That list of restrictions is actually counterproductive. I mean, they are putting the residents in not danger, but they're not effective, and it's pushing them out. So if you get the different cities in LA, it's going to push the parolees or the probationers. I mean, we have to talk about probationers too. We have over 10,000 sex offenders on probation, active probation right now. So it's not just parolees, so you have both. But, and it's about awareness as well. So when you talk about the saturation and everything, you have to look at the cities that are implementing these ordinances.
Right.
And actually, back in 2006, then Assistant Attorney General Janet Neely specifically said to the communities, please do not implement these ordinances. Yes.
Well, I know
it's a very. I'll be honest with you. I was sick this morning at the thought of doing this. For one, I just didn't want to share a space. However, I'm a person of color, so I understand that there's injustice. Not that I have to be to understand that there's injustice, but I understand that does happen. And from what he's explaining, I feel terrible if he was unjustly convicted. However, overall, the system is set up to prevent people from being in my person, around me, in my general areas, so that I know that there's a potential threat around me. I mean, I can't tell you what I would have done if I was your mother. I would have wanted to take you home and not have you experience that completely. I totally understand that. I won't even try to get into what I would have done. But the bottom line is, when you have that label, it scares the crap out of most people, and you don't care about what rights you do or you don't have. Because I want protection.
But let me ask you a question, Angelina. What are you basing your fear on?
I get it, and you know what? I understand what Angelina's saying, and we have to take a break.
What am I basing my fear on? You're kidding me, right?
No,
I'm basing my fear on the potential
of
of being raped, or my kids being molested, or some strange kid. I mean, I don't know. What kind of question is that? You know what I'm basing my fear on.
I understand that. I understand
being
that,
offended.
Okay, I'm being offended by who? By a registered sex offender?
Because they do it again. I mean, we have proof. We just got the guy.
I understand that they just got that guy.
Yeah, and
okay.
It's not like they have a label on their heads, the ones that's going to do it again.
And Michelle's going to say, but that's one guy.
Okay.
And
wait a second. No, I'm not. That's not what I'm going to say.
We really
got to go to break.
Okay,
Can we bring this up as soon as it's done?
Listen, stand by. I know we've got a caller that came on at the top of the show, so just stand by for just a second. We'll grab your call. You're listening to AV Newscast on News Talk Radio 1380, the Antelope Valley's #1 News Talk radio program. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Solar. If you're a Southern California Edison customer and your electric bill is over $150 per month, this could be your last chance to submit an application to convert your home to solar with the Zero Money Down Government Rebate Program. To see if you qualify, call 800-998-9700. The California Solar Initiative expanded state support of solar technology as part of the governor's Million Solar Roofs vision for California. A number of Southern California utilities have been forced to shut down their government incentives due to budgetary constraints. However, if you're a Southern California Edison customer, rebates are still available for a limited time. For more information and to submit your application for Zero Down Solar before the deadline, please call Varengo at 800-998-9700. 800-998-9700. That's 800-998-9700. Certain terms and conditions apply. CSLB number 935263.
Do you think of golf all the time? Do you imagine you're playing golf all the time? Do you take practice swings in the hallway or in your cubicle? Do you know a golfer? Is he or she as addicted as you are? Then you need to get a grip.
Hi, this is Paul from the Get a Grip Golf Talk Show, and we can help get your fix. Swing fix, that is. We'll be going on the air. It can be heard on Saturdays from 9 to 10 in the morning on 1380 AM. We'll be talking PGA, LPGA, Champions Tour, from tee to green and everything in between, giving you product reviews, what's in the bag, golf tips, lots of call-ins, giveaways, and more. So listen in and get a grip.
There's a school in Palmdale that's become the talk of the town. It's called the Guidance Charter School, and many parents say it's magical. The Guidance Charter School is WASC certified, scored 783 in academic performance, and has an educational curriculum that exceeds what the state of California recommends. The curriculum is enriched through age-appropriate exposure for information technology, arts, foreign language such as Arabic, and physical education. The Guidance Charter School is now going to have a full CIF sports program with soccer, basketball, track, cheerleading, and more. They're an open enrollment school, publicly funded, and have been in business for 12 years, fully approved by Palmdale School District. The Guidance Charter School has small class sizes such as 20 students in grades K through 3, 25 in 4 through 8, and just 30 students in grades 9 through 12. Call the Guidance Charter School in Palmdale today at 661-272-1701. That's the Guidance Charter School in Palmdale, 661-272-1701. And check out their website at thegcs.org. A better high school choice.
Welcome back to Avnewscast.com on News Talk 1380.
Hey, we've got a couple of callers. Let's grab one or two. You're on News Talk Radio. You're live. Who's this?
This is Dr. Nancy Irwin. I am a treatment professional of sex offenders.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Nancy.
Good morning.
You've been listening to the show.
Actually, I haven't. I'm in my car. I'm in Los Angeles, and I can't pick up your station. So but I was told to call in by some of my colleagues at the RSOL, which is Reform Sex Offender Legislation.
Well, we're happy to have you call in. You know, this is a very hot button topic up here in the Antelope Valley, and it is not just countywide, statewide, all the way across the country.
Of course.
You know, it's a very hot button topic because a lot of people, registered sex offenders are looked at as people that have the plague, and nobody wants them around.
Yep.
Okay. Now you're involved in treatment.
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
And that treatment is so they don't reoffend, so they're able to go back into so they don't reoffend.
Exactly. So they can manage their triggers, any inappropriate urges. And you know what? After they're out of prison, I treat court-mandated parolees and probationers as some voluntary people. Believe it or not, there are some people who have the attraction, inappropriate urges, have not acted out.
So they want to be proactive and
Yes.
take care of these triggers before actually acting out on them.
Of course, and I got to tell you, I'm speaking as a survivor of sex abuse myself, and I have learned that survivors, the victims, have much more in common with the perpetrators than people think. And I'm not excusing perpetrators' behavior at all. I'm dedicated to treating them because the best way to prevent future victims is to help the perpetrators.
Now that's interesting because you say you're a survivor, you're
Yes.
a past victim of sexual abuse, but now you're going to jump in and try to help them. If I was a survivor, I'd be carrying around a loaded machine gun and I'd be shooting them all.
And you know what? I lived with that anger and bitterness and hatred toward all men for many, many years. And you know what? That's not real helpful.
I can get that.
That's not real helpful for anyone.
But how do you get to the point where you want to help the perpetrators? I'm Angelina. Hi, I'm sorry.
Oh, good morning, Angelina. Hi. Well, it was a long path, but in studying psychology, I've got my doctorate in psychology, and I wanted to, specifically what brought me into the field was treating victims. And I was able to see, by working with perpetrators, that, you know what? These are not monsters. They're not devils. That is what, no offense to you, but that's what the media puts out, is this purist that they all are dying to get out of prison so they can go reoffend again. They're shooting tips and where they can find kids and all of this. And I got to tell you, yes, there are some like that, but far and away the majority live in a hot hell of their own. They live steeped in shame. They were victims themselves. They do not want to offend, but they don't know where to get help because if they say they have these inappropriate urges, people want to lock them up and shame them. There's not that many forums like we have where they can seek proper treatment and get the help that they want and deserve.
Well, how effective is the treatment to keep them from actually acting out on these triggers again? If they're really, their heart's in it, and they want to go through the entire program, How effective? Is there any kind of numbers on?
Absolutely. It's extremely effective. Let me ask you this, because I love asking people on the street. What do you think the average recidivism rate is? I mean, repeat when they get out of prison. What percentage of the guys and girls?
Okay, well, I know you're going to tell me it's like 1.9%, right?
We know that answer already.
Okay. Most people think it's about 80 or 90%. And I'm happy to say that with treatment, the stats are only between 5 and 13%.
Well, you know, the thing is not that we're necessarily worried about them doing it again. It's that we can see who they are, so we want to stay away. It's like, as a mother, and you have kids, it's like, if you see that there's a potential danger and someone's been marked as such, then you just try to avoid that at all costs, because it doesn't matter what the rate is when you have a child. You don't want to expose yourself to it at any level.
I understand that. But if you say you're not concerned about their repeat crime, then what are you concerned about? It's not contagious.
Okay, but Nancy, let me ask you a question. Okay, I understand that, and you're trying to help the sex offender, but what about the 10-year-old boy victim that's got to carry around this, that was forcibly raped, that carries this for the rest of his life? Now, to me, that's a much more important individual that I would want to help than the person that committed the crime. Especially if prior victims become perpetrators.
Exactly.
Not every one of them, but if some do, then what effort is made on their behalf?
Well, there's plenty of help for victims. And the point is, it's about 75% of perpetrators were victims of sexual abuse themselves.
I get that, too.
So, and I think it's kind of unfair to say one is more important than the other. And again, I'm not excusing their behavior. I'm a victim myself. But again, they're all victims. And I think you have to come up from a place of understanding and compassion before positive social reform can be effected at all.
I have to say that personally, I have to put a victim that hasn't victimized on a higher level than a victim that has victimized somebody else afterwards. I have to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I want to say that I'm a real compassionate person. And I think I'm very approachable, friendly, and I tolerate a lot. But I just, for me...
She puts up with me.
For me, this is what I would love. Clean the system. Like if what we're experiencing right now with this young man's interview is accurate and he's an innocent person, clean the freaking system, especially with sex offenders, because no one should have to unjustly have to carry
that
that
hanging around your neck.
Clean that. But if you did it, I don't care about your freedom rights. I just don't, because for me there's certain things like out and out murder that you just get to live with that and whatever it comes with. That's for me. And if whoever perpetrated whoever committed a crime against you, I feel the same way. So I commend you, because it's like it takes a massive amount of a woman to say I was a victim and now I'm going to choose to live the rest of my life helping perpetrators. That's amazing. But for me, I can't do it.
Well, I found that that's the best way for me to get past my victimization and be in a place of empowerment.
And I get that, Nancy.
You're talking about murderers, so is there not forgiveness for anyone? You think it's completely unforgivable? Because murderers serve shorter sentences and get out, and nobody knows where they live. How would you like to know there was a murderer living next door?
I'd love to. I want to know that, too.
You don't.
I think the aftermath of a murder, though, is a little bit less of a deal, because the victim isn't suffering anymore.
But the victim's family is.
Yeah, the victim's family is, but the victim of a sexual offense like that is going to suffer for the rest of their lives.
I still want to know where the murderers are.
Nancy.
Oh, yeah. Angie does want to know where the murderers are.
Hey, Nancy, I want to. I've got to take a break. I don't want to keep you on the cell phone too long. I want to thank you for calling in. The position you're taking is really interesting, and I've never thought about a victim now jumping in and wanting to help them.
Yeah,
okay.
I could see the other side.
I admit, that's definitely taking the high road, and I have a hard time wrapping my head around that. But I have to say kudos to you, because I do understand that that's an easier way for you to heal.
Absolutely.
Okay, I get that. Thanks for calling in, Nancy.
pleasure.
Okay. What I do want to talk about is Andy. Here's Andy, who for life has to register as a sex offender, and didn't commit a crime.
Yeah.
Okay. Alleges that he didn't do it. He was 13 years old. The victim was 8 years old. He didn't do it. He was told to cop a plea.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a problem with that. I mean, if he's walking around with a ball and chain for the rest of his life, and he didn't commit a crime, that's just a broken system.
Yeah, and it needs to be fixed, because that's disgusting.
But it is, very often that's a public defender who, we know they're labeled. A lot of people call them public
scared to death. You want to just get it done. You want to be done.
Well, you want to have a lot of really great, sexy convictions on your list, so you can start working towards DA.
Right. Now,
exactly.
Andy had to walk out, for our listeners, Andy had to walk out of the studio, and we're going to take a break now. He had to leave because we're bringing back into the studio another individual who is a registered sex offender with a GPS, and they cannot be in the same building at the same time, or he'll end up going back to prison. Okay? So, to Andy, I would just want to say, keep your chin up and keep going forward.
Yeah.
Okay? I feel bad for somebody that was wrongly convicted.
I think if anybody can, Michelle will find somebody for him that can.
I have a hard time with that, but
get things straightened out.
Stand by. I know we've got a lot of callers that have been calling in and being very patient, so just hang on. You're listening to AV Newscast on News Talk Radio 1380, and we'll be right back.
The tradition lives in Fiddler on the Roof.
Matchmaker, make me a match. Find me a find, catch me.
Make it a family tradition this summer to join Tevye, Golda, and Yanta the Matchmaker, and all the delightful characters of Anatevka.
If I were a rich man,
Audiences will laugh and cry with Tevye as he dreams of being a rich man while struggling to keep his family together, and the challenges that test their unshakable faith.
Sunrise, sunset, sunrise, sunset. To life, to life.
Make it a family tradition to see Tevye and his family with your family.
To life is to the Father I try.
An unforgettable classic that will warm the heart and touch the soul.
Lancaster Performing Arts Center. Tickets at 661-723-5950 or at lpac.org, located on the corner of Fern and Lancaster Boulevard in downtown Lancaster.
Remember when your neighbor found us naked in the car, and the time some outdoor action got us kicked out of the park, getting frisky in the dark. I gave your eye a poke, think the dog is in the bed, do I smell smoke? You and me, we never give up, you and me, we never ever ever give up. Getting hot and heavy with the whipped cream that we bought, and dressing in the kitchen, then getting caught. So many things can go wrong, but we still can get it right. You and me, we're not gonna give up tonight.
You didn't give up on sex. Don't give up on birth control either. There are more methods than you think. Visit bedsider.org to compare all the choices and put the bogus myths to bed at bedsider.org.
Boy, we got options tonight.
Brought to you by Bedsider and the Ad Council. bedsider.org.
As we recognize the service of America's men and women in uniform, let's also honor the families who sacrifice so much every day. Military families endure frequent deployments and separations. They carry on while their loved ones are sent into harm's way and wait patiently for their safe return. If you really want to honor a veteran, look for ways to support their families and thank them for their sacrifices. Go to legion.org/honor-veterans to find out how you can help.
Welcome back to avnewscast.com on News Talk 1380.
Okay, now we've got Richard in studio right now, who is another registered sex offender. Andy that was here, that you heard earlier, he had to go outside because Andy and Richard can't be in the same facility at the same time, or they end up breaking off another offense. Okay, so we can't do that. Before we get to Richard and what happened with you, let's just grab this caller that's been holding for 25 minutes. Okay, hi, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, I'm
Thank you for
sorry.
your patience.
Yeah, thanks for your patience.
Yeah, it's no problem. I am a resident of Antelope Valley, and I'm a parent of 4 children, which are 2 of them are girls.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, and hello, Jeff. How
Oh,
you doing?
hey! We got to talk NASCAR here soon.
Yes, we do.
This is the one that wants to tear you up, Steve, over NASCAR.
Okay.
And I had to agree with points that Nancy said earlier because also I am a victim.
Okay.
And if with being a victim, you have to have some type of compassion. You have to forgive because if you don't, you carry the anger around and it doesn't help.
Well,
Now,
they say holding in anger like that is drinking poison and expecting the person you're mad at to die.
So you have to forgive to move on. So, and for Andy, I feel for him because I know, as also being a criminal justice major, that we have DAs that just want to clear the docket because they have so many of them that they just want to give plea deals left and right without actually looking at the cases. If they took time to look at these cases, they have a lot of innocent boys out there that are facing charges they shouldn't be.
20% of the perpetrators are juveniles, believe it or not.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I do know some juveniles that have been labeled that because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time but did not commit the crime.
And I get that, and I can honestly say, having Andy in studio, I could look at him and I could look in his eyes and I could see the depression.
Oh yeah,
okay? I could see that he
down.
is carrying a ball and chain around, and yeah, he is a worn out, beat down individual. Okay,
and then that's causing another problem because you're sending this child into depression. So now you have something else to deal with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if people don't take a look at it, then that's when the serious problems come into play with him. With going into adulthood, because he doesn't understand. And I know back then his mother probably didn't understand what she needed to do. She probably had a public defender, and they're just going to tell her the basics.
Do you, as a victim yourself, and you have kids, do you go to the website? Do you go to the database and see if there are registered sex offenders living next door to you?
Yes, I do.
And are they close to proximity to your home?
I have 6 of them within 4 blocks of my home.
Wow. How do you feel about that?
I don't like it. My girls, when they go outside, I'm sitting on the porch watching them. One is 14 years old, and I must say I'm a very large woman. I'm 6 foot, 285 pounds.
I wouldn't pick a fight with you.
And my daughter, my 14-year-old, she's the same size as me. When men see her, they think that she's a grown woman.
Right.
And I have to tell them, look, this is a child. Stay away. You can say hello in passing or whatever, but I constantly have that fear that something's going to happen. So I'm constantly, with them like a hawk, sitting. And
but
it's
let me ask you a question. I know, but the argument is, but the recidivism rate is only 1.9%, so you really have nothing to worry about.
Oh, really?
But you'd worry anyway.
Nia, that is correct. The recidivism rate for a new sex crime from a registered sex offender is 1.9%.
Now, you know I'm being sarcastic when I said that.
I understand.
Yeah,
However, Nia, I do want to bring something to your attention. Recently in the newspaper, I believe it was on Monday, there was an article in the paper regarding 2011 and 2012 sexual abuse cases. Okay, there was nearly 900 between both years, between Lancaster and Palmdale. And of those numbers, guess how many of them are registered sex offenders that committed those allegations?
Would it be 50%?
Absolutely not. None.
None at all?
None at all. Those were all new sex offenses. None of them were committed by a registered sex offender. And by the way, and by the way, Nia, there are more sex offenders out there than you realize, because there are some sex offenders that are not required to be on, that are excluded from the Megan's list.
Yes, I know that.
Okay,
I do know.
Yes, and so the thing is that the when you get into Megan's law, Chelsea's law, there's so many laws out there. Jessica's law, they're counterproductive. They're building blocks because they figure that there's loopholes there. All right, and they're going to fix them. Well, when former Senator George Runner introduced the Jessica's Law bill in 2006.
It was originally, what, Prop 83?
Yes, it was Prop 83. There was no penalty assessed with that law. Okay? And one of the top sex offender experts was Assistant Attorney General Janet Neely. Okay, and she asked the communities not to pass these ordinances. Okay. Yes. And so,
and that's why we need to get our communities involved.
And that's exactly why I'm here, Nia. That is why I brought two of my clients, okay, in to speak to the community. Because it's all about that, engaging the community, bringing the awareness out there into society. And believe me, this is a hard topic. And number two, Nia, I am a victim of sexual assault myself. And my organization, AV East Kern Second Chance, we work with these individuals. We are one of the only organization on prisoner reentry that deals with the 290 population. The only one in the Antelope Valley.
Okay.
But I just with a couple minutes looking, pulled up an article about a Whittier man who attempted a kidnapping, and he was arrested. And he was a registered offender.
Yes, and they also assumed that he was responsible for the two other ones.
For the other ones, the attempted ones that they're trying to connect him with now.
Yes, and however, they were not able to connect him. So that's another perpetrator out there. However, that goes back.
But they still caught him doing something. Guy. He was caught in the act of trying to snatch a child.
They actually they caught
a little boy.
Yes, they did, and that's unfortunate. But that's still part of that 1.9%. Okay, now you get into the statistics. Okay, let's talk statistics here, because this comes from the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation 2012 report, which I wrote down the statistics of the 100% of sex offenders. All right, which California has 9,756 under their jurisdiction, under supervision. Of that percentage, 1.9% commits a new sex crime. 86.9% are technical parole violations. Okay? Those aren't new crimes. Right. All right?
They walk in, you have a 40.
Right, exactly. Yeah. 7.8% commit new non-sex crimes. And of that 7.8%, 3.5% of those are for failure to register crimes.
All right.
Okay? So you talk about the recidivism rate. I mean, we have the communities that do their CompStat reports and everything, and they say that, parolees are responsible for 90% of the new crimes, that are occurring in their communities. That is so untrue.
Well, the prison system and the jail system, though, it is a revolving door. Okay? Many of them do commit additional crimes. Okay?
Yeah, they do.
I'm not talking about just sex offense,
right.
But anybody, I know a lot of people in law enforcement, and they'll tell you it's a revolving door.
It is, and it's at 69.9% recidivism rate for an offender. However, that's why reentry is so important in transitioning these individuals from the prison and bridging them back out into the community successfully.
And I get that. I truly do. And I want to thank the caller that's here. I want to bring Richard on, okay? And I want to talk about him because we're going to end up running out of time on this show, and I got another 20 hours, okay?
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks very much.
Nia. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Nia.
Okay, so we've got Richard in studio. Richard, you got a microphone in front of you. What was the crime that you committed that caused you to have to register as a sex offender?
I was raped by force, but as I was telling you guys earlier, I met a girl on the street. She was a prostitute. She asked for money for she can go get pills for her grandma. So we went and did it, and like I said, next thing I was known, I was being stopped for a rape and kidnap. Okay, and
because she called the police?
I don't think she called the police. I think her grandma called the police.
Oh, you think her grandmother called the police?
Yes.
You guys had sex at her grandmother's house, or
no,
she went back?
We had it in an abandoned house.
Okay, all right. So you got arrested. Now, did it come out in trial that she was a prostitute?
Yeah, it was proven that she had more money that she should have. I had a lawyer at that time who was proving it. Next thing I know, he was taking off my case. And I got another one who didn't want to even do anything for me. I was even trying to fire him, and the judge told me, "No, I'm not firing him. That's grounds for appeal. You can appeal it, but I'm not going to get rid of him." Right? And then they told me they were going to bring in my 7-year-old little cousin to tell the court that I carry a knife on me. Right? Even though the knife, it had nothing to do with it,
That was nothing that was alleged in any of the charges.
So at that point, I just, you know what, this is my 7-year-old cousin. I'm not going to sit there and have him think that he convicted me for something at 7 years old.
I'll live with that.
You know?
Okay.
So I took the time.
And the knife, why? Because then they could have said it was forcible rape or something like
Yes.
that? Okay. But you were 20, how old? Are you 20?
I was 26.
And she was 16?
She was 16.
Okay, well, you screwed up big time right there.
Yeah.
Okay?
I didn't know she was 16. Just like the lady caller was talking about her 14-year-old. This girl looked like she was like 20, 28.
Oh,
But
okay.
you're
That's why
26.
we've got the stickers in the bars that say "We ID."
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's really, you know what, guys? It's not really funny because you're 26.
Yes, I understood
So
that.
at 26, you're supposed to have the knowledge and the wherewithal and something in you to say, you know, I need to see who you are, your age or something. I mean, I have a
it
son.
gets hot and heavy, and you don't start ID checking.
Well, you should.
I understand. I'm not saying you shouldn't.
I mean, I told my
wish
son
I
when
did.
he hit 18, you better figure out what age they are.
Okay.
You just don't get a pass because she looks 18. You just don't get a pass.
I get that. I understand. Okay, I get that. Don't get mad at me.
You just
okay,
don't get a pass. Though,
Richard,
dude.
did the victim testify at trial?
No, I didn't go all the way to
took a
trial.
plea.
I took a plea.
Okay, so now you're walking around. You've got a GPS system on your
Yes.
ankle now. All right. How long have you been out of prison?
Since 2010.
And how long were you in for?
10 years.
10 years.
Yes.
For that crime.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You do less time on a manslaughter.
Yeah.
Yes, you
Okay.
do.
All right. 10 years. Are you working now?
No, it's hard to find work. I'm trying to get ahead, but all these roadblocks are put in front of me because of this. And
Does the county or the state have anything in place to help you get a job?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
And every time you go to get a job, you have to let them know that you've got a
Yes.
felony conviction.
Yes.
Right?
Mhm.
And that turns the employer off.
It turns them off.
Because you're a registered sex offender.
Yes.
And you committed a felony.
Yes.
And it was forcible rape?
Yes.
Well, how do you expect the employer to react?
Well, I expect them to react how they
The
do.
way they are. Yeah. I mean,
it
it is what it is. It is what it is, Steve.
Okay.
She was 16.
I understand.
And that's why it's so important to get the public awareness out there like we're doing. You know, we're doing an awareness campaign by being on your show and bringing to the attention to the employers about the recidivism rate regarding the former offenders. Not only that, but the recidivism rate or unblocking those barriers to convicted felons.
Is that,
So
Richard,
talk
is that
to
your
us
only
about
crime?
Why he's home? Why are you homeless now, Richard?
Was that the only crime? Is that the only time you've committed a crime?
No, it's not been the only time I've committed a crime. I mean,
Okay.
I've been broken
Other
into
arrests?
schools and stuff like that, little stuff, stupid stuff. But
Okay.
But what happened that you ended up being homeless now?
oh, because parole, I had a parole officer who was letting me live where I was living at. The sheriff was registering me where I was living at. Well, I get a new parole officer, and she starts going through things and finding things to move me out. Right.
Like
So,
what? Was kids in the house or what?
No kids in the house. She found a rule that I can only be 100 foot from a school, which I've already been living there a year and 2 months.
And can you describe
But that's
for us how the school is laid out, though? And
Well, the school is
Okay. Don't
actually
worry.
behind me,
mm-hmm.
right? And it's not even on my street; it's just behind me.
Mm-hmm.
So
and there's no direct
What, is it a
access
high
from
school?
no,
where
there's
you are.
no.
It's a junior high school. It's a
Well,
middle
he's
school.
got
It's a
issues. He
mid-
doesn't know
it's a
how to
middle school.
detect
It's-
a 16-year-old.
Exactly. However, when you go to the measurements and everything, it is from the front of the house, from the front door. However, because there is a wall, there's an easement behind his house, and there's a school that has solar panels there. You know, there should be some exceptions to the rule. However, we get back to the city ordinances. Right now, LA County has a stay on Jessica's law for all parolees. There is a stay order. And I did bring that in today.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a decision on February 20th that with the Court of Appeals, the 3-panel judge.
I read that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and so that is, we're waiting for the actual final order, which we should hopefully get by today. and I will be happy to distribute that again.
Oh, beautiful.
And but it's Jessica's law right now for the County of Los Angeles does not apply to the residency restrictions do not apply to the parolees. However, because the city of Lancaster and Palmdale do have these ordinances in place, the city ordinances are coming into play here.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I've had some discussions with the sheriff's department, downtown headquarters, and with the cities and stuff. And, as you all know, we did sue the city of Lancaster, and that's pending litigation right now. And so we're waiting to see what the decision is going to be from there. However, that
From the court or from the city?
Actually, it's in the court right now, but the city can step
Somebody
up.
can respond,
The city can respond instead of it going into court. And it's like I explained to Mayor Paris during one of the city council meetings. Let's talk about what's in the best interest of our community, okay? And my idea is to, if they do choose to repeal the ordinance, I would like to see a sex offender management team built for the AV, the Antelope Valley, which would be a pilot, okay? And this is bringing in all entities because we do have to deal with this population, and we have to deal with it effectively. And this is more of a proactive.
Where are you going,
way.
Richard?
He's coughing. He's coughing.
No cough button here.
This is a more proactive way of dealing with a situation, as well as dealing with it with a city ordinance that puts more restrictions on these individuals. And like I said. It's been very interesting dealing with this population. It is part of the reentry population. I've been championing that for years now with the city of Lancaster and a little bit with the city of Palmdale.
When you say the population, you mean dealing with the sex offenders?
When we incorporated AV East Kern Second Chance, we took on the sex offenders. And knowing that we were the only ones dealing with that population in the Antelope Valley, and my director, Richard Macias, is a 25-year retired parole agent, lieutenant, sergeant. I mean, he's got a lot of credentials behind him, and he's retired. And so therefore,
And he's helping your organization.
Yes, he's the director.
Well, I mean, you could
That's
see
kind
that
of like
there's
a
a
reformed
need.
smoker, though.
That's right.
It
Well,
is.
you can see that there's a need because you don't want anybody homeless, and you do want someone to be able to strive within the parameters, and I completely can appreciate that.
Exactly.
It is a difficult situation. I get that.
Right, and this is a multi topic conversation.
It's true. It's so many levels.
You cannot get it in one show. If we did segments on different topics relating to sex offenders, you're talking about the barriers, you're talking about jobs, you're talking about homelessness, you're talking about how effective is this? How is this helping the parole and probation officers?
But a lot of people say, hey, wait a minute, this guy went out and committed an absolute heinous, terrible crime, raped this 8-year-old boy, and you know what? I don't care what happens to this guy. I don't care how screwed up his life is. Going forward, from this day forward, he deserves to have a screwed up life. A lot of people say that. Okay?
Yes, and however, Steve, I will say this. These men and women and juveniles have paid their debt to society by doing their prison sentence or their probationary term or whatever their sentence was. It's the new sex offenders, the new perpetrators out there that you should be worried about because the majority.
I get that because you're going back to the recidivism.
But
the guy, but the 50-year-old man that tied an 8-year-old child to a bed and forcibly raped that child, you're going to find no sympathy for that individual.
No,
okay.
I'm not. I'm not looking for sympathy for these individuals. I'm not.
Well, that's a good point.
I'm not looking for sympathy.
I thought you
That's
were.
no. I'm not.
Really
no.
All right.
Okay.
No.
Hold that thought for a minute. I want to talk more about what happened with Richard. Okay. Because Richard's situation and clearly Andy's situation are two out of the norm situations, and we've had 2 callers that have called in actually that have different viewpoints. I expected much more angrier people, and they're showing some sympathy. Okay, which is interesting. Just what do you mean? What kind of sympathy?
No, it's okay.
Okay, stand by. You're listening to Avnewscast on News Talk Radio 1380, the Antelope Valley's #1 news talk radio program, and we'll be right back.
Can you tell if this burger contains bacteria that could cause kidney failure? Listen. Can't, can you? You can't see it either. There's only one way to tell if you've cooked meat and poultry to a bacteria-killing temperature. Use a food thermometer. It's not an extra step or a nice to have. Raw or undercooked meat may contain bacteria that can make you very sick, or worse. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year, and roughly 3,000 will die. But you can keep your family safer by using a food thermometer every time. Learn more about this and other important information. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov. That's foodsafety.gov. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Some statistics are surprising, some are unbelievable, and some are simply unacceptable. Right now, nearly 30% of U.S. students aren't finishing high school. Nearly 30%. And that's the average. In many places, it's even higher than that. And fixing it is a responsibility that we all share. This is President Obama, and I urge everyone, not just parents, but friends and neighbors and family members, to take responsibility for encouraging the high school students in your communities, to support them, challenge them, push them a little, and do whatever it takes to help them make it through. Because this is one statistic we simply can't afford to ignore.
You can do your part by going to boostup.org and sending an email, a text message, or even a wake-up call to a student at risk of dropping out. Go to boostup.org and provide the boost that's needed to make it to graduation. A message from the U.S. Army and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Avnewscast.com on News Talk 1380.
Okay, we're only going to have like 2 minutes left in this show. Okay, so I just want to say that right off the bat. And Mr. Producer, please give me 30 seconds before we're going right off, okay? Please? Our producer's very upset. Okay, Michelle, you wanted to make a point, and the one thing I wanted to say, you know, Richard, a lot of people have made the mistake that you made, okay? Having sex with an underage girl, and you couldn't tell that it was. Were you drunk or on drugs at the time?
Yeah,
Truthfully.
I was doing drugs at the time.
Okay, so you really didn't care about age. No, I mean, she seemed like an adult.
She
right?
looked like an adult to me.
And you were thinking with the wrong part of your body.
Yeah.
I understand.
I went to I told the story before. I went to a In-N-Out, and I was going in to grab a bite, and there was a young girl, clearly a young girl out there, and you could see that she was on the street because she wasn't clean. And she approached me and asked to exchange sex for a hamburger. And I said, why don't we go ahead and skip the first part and just work on the hamburger thing? And I took her in there and had a hamburger with her and told her that, you know, that's the next guy that comes along may not be as nice as I am. Mm-hmm. You might really want to reevaluate what you're doing. And I really don't think the next guy would be. I never saw her out there again, but that was really disturbing to me, and it happens. It happens up here.
Hey, Michelle.
Well, you know, let me just say something, because I'm going to be sick. Steve, you can't say I can understand that. And, you know, No, hear me out, please. Because you're saying I'm a guy, you're a guy, you were young, you just wanted to have sex. No, don't understand that. Let's try to get young men to not understand that.
No, I understand. I understand why he did what he did. He
I
was
get what you were saying,
drunk or
but I'm
on
saying
drugs.
don't act.
I'm not condoning it.
I understand that too,
okay.
But let's not understand that.
Okay.
Just
okay.
let's not understand it, because we need young guys to not understand that. We need young guys to say, I need to know who you are. I need to have a dialogue. I need to choose to have a relationship. I need to have guys to understand that those are levels. That there's levels. Let's not just cop out with boys will be boys kind of thing, because that's bull.
I understand. In his case, it was a 16-year-old prostitute.
I get that.
But
I'm just saying, going forward, let's try to have the mentality that we're not going to understand things like that, because you know what? Look at what happened to him.
Right.
So let's not try to understand things like that.
She's saying educate.
Yeah.
Educate.
Yeah.
I understand. Hey, Michelle, can you come back?
Oh, yes, I'm here.
Because we've got a lot that we want to talk about. Richard,
it is too much. It is too much for.
We're done.
Uh-oh.
All right, listen.
Yeah, we're going too much for one show.
We're going to go to a hard
set up
cut
a
because
series.
Dennis Miller's going to take our show right after us.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to AV Newscast on News Talk Radio, the #1 news talk.